Welcome to One Voice Live, where we talk about One Voice, what it is, and how it fits into the world of singing. I'm your host, Alex Zito. And today we have a fun show. It's kind of a mixture of our Changing Your Vocal Perspective series and our Vocal Translating series. But before I get into it, I'm going to bring on our guest, creator of One Voice, Michael Maresca.
Woo! Hello. Thank you. It's great to be here, Alex.
You look so
Really
cool
great.
with your mic.
Thank you. I'm going to call my mic George.
Great.
Thank you, George, for being here. A pleasure to have you.
We have two guests today, George and Michael. So happy to have you.
George Michaels.
Oh my gosh. That
Nailed it.
Did you plan that?
That was a gift for everyone. A gift.
Okay, so we actually had a question for that kind of brought today's show about from Brownimation on Instagram. And the question,
Thanks, Brownimation.
Yeah, the message read, "Hello, thank you for all the questions answered so far. I would love to see a return to the vocal translating series dealing with the coordinations. How do traditional terms like head, chest, and mix translate to one voice terminology? Thank you again." Such a great question. So we're gonna really dig into this today and focus on this for the whole show.
Woo!
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So really what we're going to answer today is why we don't use the terms head voice, chest voice, and mix, what we use instead, and most importantly, why. So Michael, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think this is a really great question. And I think one of the things that happens often, something that we kind of approach head on generally in master classes, is this particular concept of, or rather this particular question, I should say, in that when people hear us talk about, or rather I should say hear from other people talking about the one voice theories, in particular the coordinations theory, they will, the natural thing is to listen to what someone says and then try and apply your own understanding of the world to that. And why that can be an issue is because one voice is not common knowledge, and it's not knowledge that we've had around for, centuries. It's knowledge that we've had around for less than a decade. And it's really exciting, but it means something very new and very different. So when we talk about chest voice, head voice, the mix, these are all terms that we either don't use or mean something very different in the world of one voice. And so I'm really excited to talk about them. So yeah, I think that's kind of the initial jumping point, is that most people, when they hear about one voice and they hear about the coordinations, they think, oh, I see. This is something I already know. And they're just kind of like trying to use different terminology to explain something I already know, which isn't true. So I want to help you know that. And we're going to explain that today to break it all down, which will be really fun. And we've never done this live before, so I'm excited to share a bit more in depth on the coordinations theory with you all. And I hope this is helpful for you all. Yeah?
So excited.
Me too. I feel like giddy right now talking about it. Because really the only place we've ever really talked about this has been in master classes. So this is the first time online that we'll be talking about it, where it will be available for friends and family. We're excited for you to share this with. So, and it will be a big burden off of your shoulders, one voicers out there, because you won't have to explain this all the time. You just refer them to this video. And I hope this is helpful. So Alex, if it's all right with you, I'd like to just dive right in to talking about coordinations, and then please throw in whatever I'm missing, or if there's something you think we need to talk about, let's break into it a little deeper. So I want to start off with the coordinations theory, and I want to talk about the first two laws of the coordinations theory. Can we pull that up, Alex, and let me know once we're there? Yeah, let's pull up the laws.
All right.
Okay, so everyone, taking a look at this right now, you're going to see two laws. The first law, first coordination theory law, is what we call these are the coordination theory laws. The first one is each coordination produces sound in its own way, and the second is each coordination is responsible for a specific range of notes. Let me say those one more time. Each coordination produces sound in its own way, and number two, each coordination is responsible for a specific range of notes. All right, you can come back to us. I wanted you all to see that. It's vital that you remember those two laws when you are talking about the coordinations and understanding what they mean. So taking a step into the past, um, one voice, when people say, so like, what's the difference between one voice and everything else? And the best way that I can answer in the most simple form is I can say, fundamentally, it takes a turn from everything else. Everything else up until this point has been um, defining the voice based on resonance. Now, mind you, resonance is something that occurs second in the body. We first produce sound here, and then it creates resonance. Resonance is a reaction to the sound production. Yeah, it happens afterwards. It's a byproduct, if you will. But we've been defining the voice based on something that happens second rather than first. And so in the world of one voice, we define the voice based on what we call the coordinations, plural. Now, understanding that is this is just the beginning, and so I want to bring back the laws in just a moment. But what I want to lay the foundation for is that in our world, what we started to realize is I started to realize that the voice, when I first recognized the pattern, which the TED Talk, the TEDx talk talks about, is that the voice really wasn't made up of two parts, which was chest voice and head voice, which we defined on resonance. We call it chest voice. Why? Because it resonates in the chest. We call it head voice. Why? Because it resonates in the skull. So Alex, we do this in master classes a lot. What do you do to get people to understand the traditional and contemporary term chest voice?
I normally have them put their hand on their chest.
All right.
Mhm.
Great. So yeah, so at home, go ahead and try this. Lay your hand across your chest, say, what do you feel? You feel a vibration, right? Yeah. Now we're gonna go up. Leave your hand there, and you're gonna say, woo!
Ooh.
Lovely. And what did you feel disappear?
Vibrations.
Vibrations, right? So we do this in master classes all the time. And so where did it go? It went up to your head, right? And this is why we call it head voice versus chest voice. We define it based on where it resonates in the body. And so this is how in the world of traditional voice training and contemporary voice training, we have been defining the voice for centuries. Then came along a really cool idea in the contemporary world of singing, voice training. We had this idea. We thought, what if we could actually take chest voice and head voice and we could mix them together? Thus, the concept of the mix was born. And that's how you know it today. A lot of people are looking for the mix. You're trying to understand the mix. People sell it, right? Like it's, I'll help you find the mix, find your mix, the mix. And it has become a selling point for many people and a very special thing for a lot of people. I spent a lot of money, a lot of time in search of this, and I never found it. And it was very frustrating for me. And that was just part of my journey. And so I want to clarify still what we're mixing. So when we talk about mixing, the concept of the mix, we delve into this as well in master classes where we say, all right, cool. So what is the concept of the mix? And then people inevitably say, it is mixing the head and the chest voice, right? And then we say the head and chest, what, right? Yes, the resonance. So you're mixing resonance. So still in the evolution from the traditional world of voice training to the contemporary world of voice training, the only thing that changed was the addition of another concept of simply blending those two things together, right? Well, in the world of one voice, why I say one voice literally takes a fundamental departure from everything else in the world of singing is because at its very foundation or core, one voice bases everything on a completely different set of fundamentals. When I started to recognize the pattern, what I started to realize is that it wasn't about resonance. In fact, I started to realize that the voice was made up of multiple parts, not just two, not just head and chest voice, but actually there was multiple parts to the voice, and that these parts had nothing to do with resonance. Thus was born the coordinations theory. And so what I figured out, came to the conclusion on this first theory, was that if you could strengthen the individual coordinations, you can actually strengthen them with technical adjustments and muscular building to all be equal strength. And once they're all at equal strength, now you have achieved one voice. Yay, right? Um, and so this is the idea. And when you look at it through that lens, things start to make a lot more sense, which is really exciting. That it's not the ominous head voice and chest voice, and somehow people have really large chest voices and some people have really high head voices. There was things that were going on that they were doing that the rest of us weren't. And the coordinations theory changes all of that because it answers all of it, which is so exciting. So now that brings us back to the coordinations theory laws. So now we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the laws. Alex, am I missing anything? Is there anything that we should add to this before we go forward?
No. Do we want to introduce the coordinations yet?
Yes. So let's take a look at the coordination names. Yeah, we're going to pull that up.
Great.
Okay, so the coordination names, as you can see right now on the screen, from the left to the right, you're going to see rumble, chest, middle, head, and whistle. Yeah, these are the 5 coordinations that we're going to talk about commercially that exist in the commercial world. There's more. We're going to talk about just these 5 right now. Now, first thing you'll notice is you'll probably notice that there's names on here that you've seen before. And you're like, well, you just said this is all so different. This doesn't look so different to me. You're right. I actually used a lot of the same terminology that we used in the past, except in this world, in the world of one voice, these words mean something very different than they did before. When we talk about chest, what we're not referring to is resonance anymore. Because in the world of one voice, we're not defining the voice based on resonance. We're defining it by the functional, by coordinations. Now, that being said, chest coordination refers to a specific coordination of the muscles in the larynx that give you access to a specific range of notes. Let me say that again. Chest coordination refers to a specific coordination of the muscles in the larynx that gives you access to a specific range of notes. So people looking at this slide will look at it and they say, oh, okay, I see. I see what he's doing. Now, let me just clarify before we go any further. So head coordination is not referring to what? Resonance. It's not referring to resonance. It's referring to a specific coordination of the muscles in the larynx that allow you to access a specific range of notes. So inevitably this happens, right? People are looking at this, and of course, Alex, if there's anything you come up with on the way, I would love any devil's advocates as you come along with this. But people will look at this and they'll say, "Oh, I see what you've done. These are smart people. These one voicers. I see what they've done. They're sneaky. They actually took the word mix and they swapped it out with the word middle, and they're just trying to repackage information we already have to sell it to the world. Brilliant. Well done. No. If that's what you're thinking, then you're going to make a gross error and you're going to miss a tremendous level of knowledge in the future. And here's what I don't want you to miss. So we're going to go back to that first coordination law. Can we go back to that slide, Alex? Okay, so in the coordinations theory, the first law states that each coordination produces sound in its own way. All right, let's take a look again back at the coordinations. Now, looking at the coordinations, what we've got is we've got the 5 coordinations, and what we just learned is that the first coordinations law, the first coordination theory law, states that each coordination produces sound in its own way. Okay, all right, pop quiz for all of you one voicers out there. So I think I've got it. So head coordination is really just a mixture of whistle coordination and middle coordination, right?
No.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It is its own thing. Why is it its own thing? What's the first law say? That each coordination produces sound in its own way. Oh, got it. Okay, so I think it makes sense, Alex. I think you and I we were missing something. I think now it makes sense to me. Pop quiz again, number 2. So chest coordination is really just a mixture of rumble and middle. No.
Ow.
Why? Because each coordination produces sound in its own way. This is the first law of the coordinations theory. So then what is middle coordination? Middle coordination Yes, it's its own coordination. Love it. So it's its own coordination. And this is really important to understand. It's not a mixture of anything else. It doesn't play with anyone else. It is its own thing. Okay. So jumping back out, you can probably see us here now. What this changes for us in this initial law is in terms of the words mix and chest and head. Why this changes things is when we start to look at the voice through the lens of the coordinations theory and talking specifically about these 5 coordinations. And remember, what we're not referring to anymore is we're not referring to resonance in the world of one voice. When we say chest coordination, we're referring to a specific coordination of the muscles in the larynx, right? That give us access to a specific range. For example, when I was growing up, people, I remember being a wee lad, and I would go and I would sing and I would go, my falsetto, garbage, worthless, right? That's what I would feel like, right? And of course, what am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with that, right? I'm not going to go, Santa Fe, like that's horrible, right? You don't want that. Boo. Well, what am I going to do? That's it. That's all I got, right? I'm moving into my falsetto, right? Which was just another term, even more confusing, which somewhere in the world of traditional voice training and even contemporary, men have falsettos and women have head voices. Really, falsetto was another name for a head voice for a man, right? Super confusing. So for funsies, let's just say falsetto was another name for head voice in a man. Well, what was I going to do with this? I wasn't going to do anything. This is totally worthless for me, right? And particularly looking at it in this lens of the traditional or the contemporary world, to me it was basically worthless. There was nothing I could do with this. The only thing that I could do was I could take this voice that I'm speaking in now, and I could learn to slowly stretch it and stretch it and stretch it. The problem was I had stretched it as far as it would go, which on a good day was an E or an F, and that was a real good day. That was a real good day. Otherwise, I'd be cracking around a D above middle C if I was lucky. And then I would lose my voice, which is just awesome. Super fun. So in my world, that was a dead end, and that was the end of it. That was a waste of time for me. But when you start to look at it through the lens of the coordinations, you start seeing it very differently. What you're actually hearing me move into, right now I'm in what we call chest coordination. I just moved up to what most people would call, in the traditional and the contemporary world, they would call it head voice, right? But I'm actually in the world of one voice. I'm in middle coordination, yeah? Middle coordination, remember, has nothing to do with resonance, and it is its own thing. This coordination produces sound in its own way, yeah? Now, if you look at it this way, and we compare the difference between chest coordination and middle coordination, and we look at it like this, we look at these and we say, which is stronger, right? In the simplest sense. Well, yeah, chest coordination is stronger. So if you look at it like a graph, right, it becomes very simple to recognize that what I really need to do is I really just need to learn how to strengthen this, get it stronger and stronger and stronger until it's equal strength. Yeah. Yeah. And so that was the game, that it wasn't just a lost cause. It was just a very underdeveloped coordination in my voice. That was a whole new world for me, because now it was no longer about trying to stretch something. It was about moving into the next coordination and developing it, right? And that wasn't just for songs like Santa Fe, right? That started to become true for songs like, why can't I think of these songs? 80s rockers, 80s rock songs, where they're just like Through the Heavens, Foreigner, Boston, right? Just way up there, Stevie Wonder. Like we're talking like D's above tenor, high C, E's, F's. That's all true going up there as well. I can't keep moving with middle coordination all the way up there. I have to move and transition into head coordination. Mm-hmm. Now remember, we're not referring to resonance. We're talking about a specific coordination here. So Alex, I want to talk about, while we're here, I want to talk about breaks and maybe why that's important as well.
Right.
So the second law talks about each coordination is responsible for a specific range of notes. Yeah. Second law, each coordination is responsible for a specific range of notes. Okay. So coming back, you can probably see this again now. Because each coordination is responsible for a specific range of notes, we have to understand why and when that occurs. What I was obsessed with going through my vocal journey was I was obsessed with understanding how it was possible, or why rather, we would break. What didn't make sense to me is that suddenly I would be going, it made no sense to me that there could suddenly, because people would say, well, the reason you're breaking is because you're not supporting, or because you're having resonantial shift in your skull. You're not mature enough yet. When was that going to happen? And what didn't make sense to me is that I always felt that here. I always felt that shift here in my larynx. I didn't feel it anywhere else. And what also didn't make sense to me is that here I'm using my vocal cords to make sound just as much as I'm using my vocal cords to make sound here. When I go from a low point to a high point, why are my vocal cords literally freaking out for no reason? I'm still using my vocal cords to make sound. That makes no sense, right? And so understanding why we're having a crack in our voice or a break, and I'm not doing this because crack or break, it's not a real thing. It's a real thing that happens, and we always have it. What people start to learn how to do is they strengthen the coordinations and make them equal in strength. So as they move between them, it seems as though it is seamless. But really what they've learned to do is move from one coordination to the next, to the next, to the next. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So with this understanding, when you hear me crack or break, the reason I'm cracking or breaking is because I'm moving from one coordination of the muscles to another. I'm using the same muscles just in a different way in my larynx. Yeah. So as I go up, I'm making that shift. Yeah. And so now I move from now keep listening. Yeah. Now you listen to this and you think, oh no, now he's moving into his chest voice. Well, back in the old world of traditional and contemporary voice training, you would be right. I would have moved into my chest voice, but in this world, we're not referring to resonance. And this doesn't make any sense in terms of resonance anyways. It makes zero sense because the higher I go, I actually feel literally nothing in my chest cavity now. How in the world could this be chest voice? Exactly. Confused me too, a lot. Where I am still is I'm still inside of middle coordination. Yes, what I've learned how to do is strengthen that coordination. Yeah? So I say this, and I wanted to give these examples because I want it to be clear that the concept of chest voice and head voice and mix are all based on resonance. And on a fundamental level, one voice quite literally forks off from the rest of the world because we've stopped defining the voice based on resonance, which chest voice, head voice, and mix are all defined by. Even still today, this is what the rest of the world lives by. And so one voice, my hope, our hope, is that this is the evolution and the next step, advancement in the world of singing, that it will usher in a whole new world of possibilities because it no longer becomes special that someone can sing high because one voice shows us that actually anyone can learn to sing high. It's just a matter of building the appropriate coordination. It's no longer magical. Adam Lambert, for example, an amazing singer, right? We look at Adam Lambert and think, oh my gosh, that's insane. We look at Whitney Houston. Wow, Whitney Houston, what a beast, right? And we just marvel. While, yes, the musicianship for both of these singers is very high and their skill set is very high, what they do vocally in the world of one voice is no mystery. It actually all makes sense. What they do and then what they've learned to do is they learn to move from one coordination to the next, and they've built up and developed the weaker coordinations. They just so happen to do that in multiple coordinations. So now their range has moved quite high. So Adam Lambert goes from chest coordination to middle coordination all the way up to head coordination and sustains a heavy weight all the way up there, which is amazing. It's really, really cool. It's the same thing that all the 80s rockers did that we all marveled at back in the 80s and 90s, that we still marvel at, right? So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. Alex, is there anything that we're missing that we should flip side on, ask questions about, dig into a little more?
Yeah. I let's talk about what those things equal. Like, what does chest voice equal in
Great.
land? So, like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about heavyweight briefly.
Okay.
Yeah. And lightweight and midweight. So the second big theory in the world of one voice is a theory called weight theory. That came after it followed the coordinations theory. Once we took that split off of the world of voice training, suddenly we were making sounds, but we weren't quite sure how those sounds were being made. We knew that they were being made in a coordination, but how was it possible to make the sounds I wanted to make in another coordination, right? And this is where weight comes in. So, for example, going into like if I'm going to say, I love rock and roll, put another dime in the jukebox, baby. Okay, so this, if you're guessing, one voicers, would this be a lightweight or a heavyweight?
Lightweight.
What do you think, Alex? Lightweight. Okay, the great tell or the easy tell is that it's a lightweight because you can hear a lot of air, yeah? Let's go the opposite direction. I love rock and roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. What you hear right now is you probably notice there's not a lot of air coming out of my vocal cords. This is what we call a heavyweight. Now, what a lot of people do is when they hear that, they freak out. Like, oh no. All the like vocal health people, everyone's like, no, that's bad for your voice. Right. It's all fine. It's just a different weight. Yeah. That's all it is. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different weight. Right. And as long as you're doing it efficiently and effectively and balanced, your life will be easy. Yeah. It's not that one is better or more healthy than the other. They're just different. Yeah.
Totally.
And now one other. So we have these two, which I just showed you. I love rock and roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. Which a lot of people might call falsetto, yeah, or head voice, right? In the traditional and contemporary world. In the world of one voice, this would be lightweight in my middle coordination. Now we're gonna go to the other side. I love rock and roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. So in this world, people would say, in the one voice world, we would say that this is, I'm sorry, in the traditional and contemporary world of voice training, people would say, wow, he's got a really strong chest voice. I didn't know that it was so high. Wow, what an amazingly high or large range you have, right? What a chest voice. In the world of one voice, I'm actually still in middle coordination, but this time I'm singing in a heavyweight. Yeah? And let me give you one more. So I just gave you, I love rock and roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I love rock and roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I've given you both light and heavy. If we're looking at this on a scale, right? I've got light on this side. I've got heavy on this side. All right. What is this? I love rock and roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. Notice how this one isn't quite as heavy as this one. You notice this one sounds like this, and this one sounds like this, right? But this one's kind of in between. This is what we refer to as a midweight in the world of one voice. So now I'm still in middle coordination, but now I'm singing with a midweight. This is similar to the weight that you hear the lead singer of Fun, or what used to be Fun, singing. For example, some nights I wake up cashing in my bad luck. Some nights I call it a draw. That's a midweight. Versus singing something like that with a heavyweight. Some nights I wake up cashing in my bad luck. You can hear that there's less air being released there. Or in a lightweight. Some nights I wake up cashing in my bad luck. You hear the difference, guys? So those are the differences in weight. Now, the term mix in this world, we're also going to, I guess, throw in the word belt as well.
Yeah.
In chest and head. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Alex, I'm going to have you do some demos as well.
Great.
If you would be so kind. Let's define these. I'm going to define these in mine first, and then I would like for you to do some of your examples as well. It'd be, I think, really helpful. So now, you guys have all probably heard this before. Oh, gosh. musical theater song. I'm not afraid.
Of anything?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. God, couldn't think of the correct. I'm not afraid of anything, be it growing old or going out of style. I'm not afraid of anyone. Okay. If you heard me do that, and particularly I was a woman and you saw me do that or heard me do that, in the contemporary world of voice training, you would say, what a strong mix. Max, he found his Max. Right. Um, and I'm not doing that to, please forgive me, I'm not doing that to belittle anyone or to lower the validity of anyone's discoveries with that. It was just a really, I'm speaking to my own personal experiences, uh, trials and tribulations with that world and that word in particular. So, yes, people would say that that is the mix, right? If you listen to someone and they go, Santa Fe, they'd say, oh, what is that? That's belting. In our world, we would call that a heavyweight. Yeah. The mix is really just a loud midweight in the world of one voice. Alex, could you give us an example of a lightweight, soprano-y lightweight thing?
Sure. Longing to tell you. Is that the right key? But
Perfect.
great and shy.
Beautiful. Perfect. Yes. Great. So if you guys listen, you can hear the air release in her voice, which is really awesome. And you can hear that. And that's what qualifies it as a lightweight. Now, that's not a healthier sound than what I just did in the ending of Santa Fe, right? It's not healthier. It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
Just a different sound, different combo, if you will, of what I'm doing inside of what she's doing in that particular coordination, what I'm doing in middle coordination, right? Can you do a heavyweight example? Same area? Yeah, around the beat of the sea.
Yeah, I have no song in my mind. Yeah, is an example.
Great. Lovely. Yeah, great. So doing that and hearing that, you guys will notice that she's not releasing as much air now. Yeah. Could you sing something that would be considered mixy, Alex? As a famale?
Can I do I'm Not Afraid?
Yeah, great. Yeah. Perfect.
I'm not afraid of anything, be it growing old or going out of style.
Perfect. Yeah. You know, one of the things I used to call when I was younger that I used to call the mix is I would say it's basically just like a really strong head voice is what I would say.
Yeah.
Is what I used to tell people.
Well,
it was confusing because go ahead.
Now we have like, oh, that's such like a wintry mix, or like what a light head mix, and oh, that's a great like chest mix. When she goes up there, it turns into a head mix, but she comes back down to a chest mix, and it's all on the scale.
Yes.
When we're saying things like, oh, that's such a light mix or a head mix, it's just moving a little bit this way towards lightweight versus a chest mix, which is leaning a bit more towards a heavyweight.
Towards the heavyweight. Yeah. And so this is something that's so beautiful in the world of one voice is that it ushers in a whole new language, a language that is just so much simpler. Instead, we just call it a lightweight. It's a heavyweight. It's a midweight, right? And you can, go the gamut of the weights in a song or talk about it that way, but it just clarifies the language so much and so important to also understand that whatever you can do in one coordination, you can do in another. It's amazing. It's so exciting. So whatever I can learn to do in my chest coordination, yell, scream, riff, sing legit operatically, sing pop song, I can do the same thing in middle coordination. I can do the same thing in head coordination, whistle, rumble. It's amazing, and it just simplifies the whole thing. It's so exciting. So it's kind of like when you see it through a new lens, everything looks different. And so things that didn't make sense now do. It's kind of like when you were a kid, you probably saw those things where they're like, I don't know. It's almost like you have to have a different perspective. But did you guys ever do the magic eye things, right? You had like the magic eye, you had like probably look like really stupid, but you had to put your face into it, and your eye vision kind of had to blur, and it was all this like it looked like garble all over screen. You're looking at me like you have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm so sad right now. Okay, everyone, please find Magic Eye. It's called Magic Eye. At least those are the books that I grew up with. But it's literally like garble on a piece of paper. You have no idea what it is. It's just like a smodge podge of colors and weird stuff.
Hmm.
And you put your face into it and you slowly move it away. And as you move it away, if you allow your eyes to relax, what you'll start to see, which is, I don't even know how this is possible. This is literally magic. That's why they call it the magic eye. But it's an optical illusion. But what you'll start to see is a shape in 3D that pops out of the page.
Ooh.
It's absolutely amazing. And it's not like special paper. It's just literally a particular pattern
Yep.
that plays tricks with the mind's eye, as it were. Not the mind's eye, but how the mind is interpreting the colors and the shapes, etc.
Yeah.
Amazing. And it changes what you see. And the same thing is true for the coordinations theory. On a fundamental level, it changes what we see, how we see the voice, what's possible, how we can rehabilitate it, what we think is healthy. It's a brave new world.
It really does change everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything. And
Literally.
what I love about it, since we're talking about the voices versus the coordinations, is within the coordinations definition and weight, how to go about getting the sound you want is built within the definition. Whereas
Yeah.
in head voice, chest voice, you don't really know how to do what it is you're doing unless you've stumbled upon it magically.
Wow, I've never thought that. That's
Really?
so real. It's so real though.
Huh.
I have never thought that. That's partially why it's so clear. It's so easy. So, imagine being with a music director, and instead of the music director telling you in a show, or you're with a producer in a recording studio, instead of them telling you, let's do it again this time, I want more warmth. Like, can you give me more warmth in the sound? And then on this part, I want you to kick it more, right? What does warmth and kick it mean? I don't know, right? But in the world of one voice, we can actually break that down. What it becomes is warmth. If you want me to be warmer right now, I'm actually going to start going to a different weight. I'm going to speak to you in a light weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now it feels warm. When I do it kind of sounds creepy. But this is
You
warm.
also
Right?
change coordinations.
Yeah. And if I'm going to kick it at one point, I'm probably going to move to a heavyweight. And you could tell me, hey, when you're in middle coordination, I love what you're doing with the lightweight, but could you actually go a bit heavier for me? That's so easy.
Yeah.
Instead of it being like, when you're there, it feels so luscious and bright, but I want it to be a little less bright.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're talking about light.
Yeah.
And ambience of light. What does that mean, right?
Totally.
It's so real. It's so real. Are we missing anything here, Alex? Is there anything that we need to add to this, or just to wrap a bow around this?
I would just say it can become intimidating at first, maybe, potentially hearing a one voicer who's maybe taken a lot of sessions, or a one voice coach go back and forth between like contemporary definitions and then what we call it in one voice. So like, oh yeah, chest voice, that's a heavyweight, and like between these range of notes, blah blah blah. If you get lost, what I would recommend is, okay, great, chest voice, what are we talking about? Think range of notes, coordination, and then think how much air is being restricted, weight. And that can help a lot. So if you're thinking like mix, okay, that's probably more like middle coordination, sometimes head, and how much air is being restricted, medium amount. It's not super restricted and it's not super light. So that's a kind of easier way to think, okay, these are the two things I really have to wrap my brain around. And then it can help bridge the worlds.
That's a great point. And I'll add for that in terms of like head voice, when someone might be, particularly for a woman, when they say, hey, could you give me something like head voicey, right? What they're asking you for is they're asking you for something that's probably legit. In most cases, meaning it sounds classical or operatic, right? And you're not going to do that in a heavyweight or a belt, right? What you're going to do is you're going to do that in a lightweight, and you're going to make your vocal tract larger. Yeah. That's a great point. And if they ask you to make it mixy, right? Like Alex said, you're more than likely going to be in middle coordination, but you will do it in a bit of a lighter weight. It won't be heavyweight, and it won't be fully a lightweight. So it's keeping in mind that midweight, if you get lost with a midweight, do a heavyweight, do a lightweight, and then go in between, and that will be your midweight. It'll give you a much better guide for that. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to add to this, or any questions that I have, but I don't.
I think we nailed it. And if there is something we missed,
Questions.
questions, we can pick it up on Quick Questions or the next One Voice Live. So yeah, let us know if there's a question you have about this. Let us know. Any thoughts or questions, you can DM us on Instagram, and we would love to answer those questions for you.
Yeah. Yep. Fantastic. Really cool. And if there's people that you're like, oh, this One Voice thing, this might be a great thing to share with them to help clarify maybe what you've told them so far.
Yeah.
Thank you for everyone who's part of the One Voice community. You One Voices are out there are why we do this. Thanks.
100%. Michael, thank you so much. This was so awesome.
A joy. A pleasure.
Great. Okay, guys. We'll be back next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. CT for another One Voice Live. Send in any questions you have, and we will see you then. Thanks so much.